Welcome back, everyone. World Baseball News for the week of February 13th. We have two huge baseball stories from last week. One is the championship game of the Caribbean Series. That took place last Friday. And the only thing that could possibly overshadow that, the revealing of all 20 30-man rosters for the World Baseball Classic. That's 600 players in all, so I'll show the names, but I'm not going to discuss them all here. Just highlight the top players and mention the surprising additions and omissions. I am doing team previews for all of these teams where I go over each individual player. 5 down, 15 to go at this point. Check those out for more details about these rosters. The long-awaited final roster for Team USA came out mostly as we had expected. Players like Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Nolan Arenado, and Paul Goldschmidt highlight a super talented group of players on the field. The surprising name to see there was Kyle Higashioka. We had not heard anything about him before, but they needed a third catcher, so there he is. The rotation includes Clayton Kershaw and Nestor Cortez. The one missing is Logan Webb. He committed before, never decommitted. Don't know what happened there, but a really strong bullpen, some of the best relievers in Major League Baseball. The Dominican team is loaded with talent, but not what we thought it was going to be just a few weeks ago. A great lineup of hitters including Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, Manny Machado, and Jeremy Pena. Who's missing? Jose Ramirez. He was on their preliminary roster, but not the final roster. We thought he was going to be the starting second baseman. For pitchers, the bad news came in the last couple weeks before the final roster came out, when Framber Valdez, Luis Castillo, Luis Severino, and Freddie Peralta all decommitted. But they've still got reigning NL Cy Young winner Sandy Alcantara, Christian Javier, and some other pretty good starters they can use. Not the dominant rotation we were expecting, but the bullpen makes up for it. Puerto Rico's got some good hitters, Francisco Lindor, Javi Baez. For pitchers, they've got Marcus Stroman, one of the heroes of Team USA's 2017 run. Edwin Diaz, Alexis Diaz, Jorge Lopez. Bullpen should be really good there. Venezuela brings a solid lineup. Should be a good rotation with pitchers like Ranger Suarez, Jesus Luzardo, and Martin Perez. Balanced with a lineup of good hitters, Jose Altuve, Luis Arraez, and Eugenio Suarez. The big one is in the outfield. Ronald Acuna Jr. announced just a couple weeks ago that he would not take part in the WBC. Then, just a day before the final rosters came out, announced that he would indeed be on the roster. And there he is. Mexico brought everyone we expected them to bring. Doesn't appear to be anyone missing there. Pitchers Julio Urias, Taijuan Walker, and Jose Urquidy. Hitters Randy Arozarena, Joey Meneses, Alex Verdugo. Japan, no change from their final roster that came out a few weeks ago. Shohei Ohtani, Yu Darvish, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Roki Sasaki make up possibly the best rotation of any WBC team. On the field, Seiya Suzuki, Masataka Yoshida, as well as NPB stars like Munetaka Murakami, and of course Ohtani at DH. Korea was the first team to release its 30-man roster over a month ago. Pitching is led by former Cardinals pitcher Kwang Hyun Kim and the best pitchers of the KBO like Chong Mo-koo. The only change was one we already knew about. Ji-mon Choi, recovering from surgery, is no longer on the roster. Top hitters include Padres shortstop Ha-sung Kim and reigning KBO MVP Jung-hoo Lee. Cuba's roster was made final a couple weeks ago and nothing has changed since then. A few major league hitters like Luis Robert and Yoan Moncada, ex-Major League hitter Yoenis Cespedes, a couple NPB hitters Alfredo Despine, Yuribel Gracial, Ariel Martinez, pitching led by Roenis Elias, and a few NPB relievers. Taiwan had released a 36-man roster a few weeks ago, so of course some names had to be removed, but most of the stars are still there. Major League infielders Tzu Lin and Yu Chang, NPB outfielder Po Rong Wang, and reigning CPBL MVP Li Lin. Pitchers with previous MLB experience like Wei Chung Wang and Jen Ho Tseng. The only big name missing there is Yi Chung. He withdrew a couple weeks ago due to injury. Netherlands brings a competitive roster. Big name hitters like Alexander Bogaerts, Didi Gregorius, Jonathan Scope, and Andrelton Simmons. One name is missing though, Jurickson Profar. He was on the preliminary roster but not the final one. Pitchers Kenley Jansen, Pedro Strop, Chiron Martiz. Colombia, doesn't seem to be anyone missing here. Major League hitters Harold Ramirez, Gio Urshela, Jorge Alfaro, and Jordan Diaz are there. Pitchers Jose Quintana, Julio Teheran, Reyver San Martin. Canada, a couple good starting pitchers in Cal Quantrill and Nick Pivetta. Only a couple other Major League pitchers, Rob Zastryzny and Matt Brash. Guardians catcher Bo Naylor will be there. His brother Josh will not. That was announced a few weeks ago. They've got Freddie Freeman in the infield and Tyler O'Neill in the outfield. Team Italy, about half their position players are active major leaguers like David Fletcher and Vinny Pascantino. One hitter everyone will be watching is outfielder Sal Frelick, a Brewers prospect expected to make his major league debut this year. A few major league pitchers, Andre Palante, Matt Festa, and Ryan Castellani. a few more with previous MLB experience. Orioles pitcher Nick Vespi was supposed to be here, but he had surgery this offseason and said last week that he would not participate. Jordan Romano was the best pitcher they had on their preliminary roster, but he withdrew last week as well. Not sure what the reason was. Team Israel, Jock Peterson is there as promised, joined by two other Major League hitters, Garrett Stubbs and Alex Dickerson. Former big league hitters like Danny Valencia and Ryan Lavarnway, and Matt Mervis, a Cubs prospect ready to make his Major League debut soon. Pitching staff led by Orioles starting pitcher Dean Kramer. Another good starting pitcher is Robert Stock, pitched in the KBO last year, and a number of Major League relievers past and present in the bullpen. Australia, we already knew closer Liam Hendricks and infielder Curtis Mead, a Rays prospect, would not be able to participate. Other than those two, all the best from Australia are here. Outfielder Aaron Whitefield is the only member of this team to take the field in MLB in 2022, and that was only in 5 games. Warwick Saupold is the only pitcher with any Major League experience. He also pitched in the KBO. Could be useful since Korea is their first opponent. China, this had been the quietest team. We knew almost nothing about them. Doesn't look like they were keeping any big secrets. Ray Chang is an American-born infielder, last played at AAA Louisville back in 2016. Yusuke Masago is a SoftBank Hawks outfielder, spent most of last year in the MPB minors. As far as pitching, the only one with any high-level experience is Kwon Ju, a dependable reliever for the KT Wiz of the KBO. Now we get to the teams that had to qualify for this WBC, so it'll mostly be the same players you saw at last fall's qualifiers. The Czech Republic's roster includes former minor league hitters like Martin Cervenka and Wojciech Mensik. The notable addition is Eric Sogard, their lone player with major league experience. No big names among pitchers, just lots of extra-liga arms. Team Panama, the team that marched through the Pool B qualifier, added a few big leaguers to their roster. Hitters Jonathan Arauz and Christian Bethencourt joined the team. Major League pitchers Jaime Barria, Justin Lawrence, Javi Guerra, and Paulo Espino, as well as a number of former Major League pitchers. Team Nicaragua, former Major League hitters Chesler Cuthbert and Alex Blandino are there. For pitchers, they've added Yankees pitcher Jonathan Loaizaga. J.C. Ramirez is another pitcher with Major League experience. And let's end it with Team Great Britain. Jazz Chisholm is the one they were hoping to have here, but he was injured last year, and he's learning a new position this year, so it's not going to happen. Trace Thompson and Lucius Fox are the Major League batters in their lineup. 19-year-old catcher Harry Ford is a Mariners prospect you'll want to watch. Ian Jabot and Andre Scrub bring recent Major League experience to the pitching staff. Tyler Visa was a good pitcher in the CPBL last year. Aroldis Chapman had been put on the preliminary roster, but we all knew that was a long shot. After 9 days and 32 games, with 8 teams making up the largest Caribbean Series ever, there was only one left standing on Friday as 2023 Caribbean Series champions. This is how the week started. Venezuela and Mexico were at the top, both teams 3-1, and scheduled to meet on Monday. Colombia, Dominican Republic, Curacao, and Panama were all 2-2. Puerto Rico and Cuba were 1-3, both teams desperately needing a win. Day 5, Monday, Cuba and Colombia. Colombian DH Jordan Diaz stayed hot, opening the scoring with a third-inning 2 RBI double. Cuba answered in the fourth on a 2 RBI single from catcher Yordanis Alarcon. Colombia regained the lead 1 inning later on a 2-run homer from Gustavo Campero and an RBI single from Jesus Mariaga. That would keep them ahead for good. Colombia won 5-4. Outfielder Gustavo Campero was 2 out of 4 with a home run, 2 RBI, and 2 runs scored. Dominican Republic and Panama. Panama got on the board first to take a 1-0 lead in the second, but it was all Dominican after that. From the third inning on, they scored 10 runs and cruised to a 10-1 win. Steve Moyers threw 8 innings and only allowed that 1 second-inning run to earn the win. Curacao and Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico really needed a win here, and they wasted no time, putting up 2 runs in the first inning and letting their pitching take care of the rest. 4 Puerto Rico pitchers held Curacao to 1 run on only 4 hits. Puerto Rico won 3-1 to keep their hopes of reaching the semis alive. Ruben Castro was 2 out of 3 with a walk, 1 batted in, and 1 run scored. Then came the big one, Mexico and Venezuela. Mexico got it started in the second when Joey Terdoslavich hit a 2 RBI double. 1 inning later, a 2 RBI triple from Roberto Valenzuela highlighted a 4-run inning for Mexico. As for Venezuela, they were held to no runs and only 2 hits for the entire game. Mexico rolled 7-0 to take sole ownership of the top spot. Luis Miranda, the Cañeros ace during the regular season, struck out 7 batters through 6 innings. The bullpen followed with 3 scoreless, hitless innings. Standings after Monday, Mexico had all but guaranteed a spot in the semifinals. Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and Colombia 3-2. Puerto Rico, Curacao, and Panama 2-3. Cuba dead last at 1-4. Day 6 Tuesday, Cuba and Puerto Rico. Cuba started out strong, taking a 3-0 lead in the second inning, but Puerto Rico got 2 in the 5th and 2 in the 9th to walk it off. 4-3 was the final. Leadoff hitter Brian Torres was 2 out of 5 with 1 batted in. Panama and Mexico. A 5th inning throwing error allowed Mexico to score the go-ahead run. Braulio Torres Perez allowed just 1 over 5 2/3. The Mexican bullpen followed with 3 1/3 scoreless, and Mexico beat Panama 2-1 to improve to 5-1 for the tournament. Colombia and Dominican Republic. No score till the 6th when Dilson Herrera and Jesus Mariaga each hit 2 RBI doubles to make it 4-0 Colombia. 1 inning later, Colombia poured it on, adding 5 more runs. They plowed over the Dominican team 11-1. Eduard Lopez blanked the Dominicans through 7 innings to earn the win. Venezuela and Curacao. Curacao took a 6-2 lead in the second, and there was no scoring in the next 4 innings. Looked like there might be an upset, but Venezuela got 3 in the 7th and 3 in the 8th for an 8-6 come-from-behind win. Donry Vasquez got on base 4 times and drove in 2. After Day 6, this is how it looked. Mexico was 5-1. They were in. Colombia and Venezuela 4-2. Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico 3-3. 1 day left. Day 7, Wednesday, final day of the round robin. Panama and Cuba. Another bad day for Cuba. Panama scored 5 runs in the 3rd, 2 more in the 4th. They rolled to a 10-4 win, their 3rd win of the tournament, ensuring Cuba would finish last. Big day for Johnny Santos. Reached base 5 times, batted in 3, and stole 3 bases. Curacao and Dominican Republic. Curacao kept it close, tied at 1 after 6 innings. But in the 7th, the Dominican team scored 4 runs, mostly on a 3-run homer from Ramon Hernandez. Dominican Republic clinched a spot in the semis with a 6-2 win. Leadoff hitter Emilio Bonifacio singled, doubled, and tripled, batted in 1 and crossed the plate twice. Puerto Rico and Mexico. Puerto Rico jumped out to a 5-0 lead early on when shortstop Edwin Diaz hit a 3-run homer. They never lost the lead after that, 9-3 over Mexico. Puerto Rico won 3 in a row to end the group stage, but it wasn't enough to qualify for the semis. First baseman Vimal Machín drove in 3 runs on 3 hits in the game. Venezuela and Colombia. Venezuela grabbed an early 5-1 lead. Colombia made it 5-4 in the 6th, but Venezuelan outfielder Jose Rondon added some insurance runs on a 2 RBI single in the 9th. Venezuela 7-4 over Colombia, but both teams would qualify for the semifinals. Rondon had that 2 RBI single in the 9th. It was his 3rd time getting on base in the game. Final standings for the round robin. Mexico and Venezuela tied for first at 5-2. Colombia, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico were all 4-3. Sadly for Puerto Rico, they got squeezed out. 3 wins for Panama, 2 for Curacao, only 1 for Cuba. Semifinals on Thursday. First game was Dominican Republic and Mexico. The Dominican team ruled from the start. A sac fly from Mel Rojas Jr. in the first inning gave them the early lead. In the 4th, a 2 RBI single from Henry Urrutia made it 5-0. Mexico could never come back. Dominican Republic won 8-3 to advance to the championship game. Esmil Rogers lasted 6 innings, holding Mexico to 2 runs to get the win. Venezuela and Colombia, a rematch of just the day before. Venezuela got on the board right away in the 1st. Once again, it was Jose Rondon getting it done, singling in 2 runs. In the 5th, Rondon struck again, a 2-run homer to give Venezuela a 3-run lead. Colombia kept getting close but could never take the lead. Venezuela advanced to the final game with a 7-5 win. Rondon was 2 out of 4 with a home run and 4 batted in. Last day of the tournament on Friday. First up, the 3rd place match, Mexico and Colombia. A good pitcher's game. Carlos Quevedo threw 5 scoreless for Colombia. Jeff Kinley tossed 6 scoreless for Mexico. The only run of the game came in the bottom of the 6th, an RBI single from Joey Tardoslavich. Mexico came out on top 1-0 to take home the bronze. Jeff Kinley led the way with 6 shutout innings, only 4 hits and no walks. A little disappointing for Mexico considering their 5-1 start to the tournament, but it matches last year's performance when they also bat out in the semifinals. And for the club, Cañeros de los Mochis, it was a season to remember, going from back-to-back last-place finishes in the LMP to an LMP title and 3rd in the Caribbean Series. Quite a turnaround. For Colombia, they fell from 1st a year ago to 4th this year, but still they were in the top half, something they had never done until last year. And it was a different club this time. Vaqueros de Monteria had their best Caribbean Series finish ever. They were winless in their only previous appearance back in 2020. The final game was on Friday night, Dominican Republic and Venezuela for the gold. DR got on the board first in the 2nd on a sac fly from Kelvin Gutierrez. They would score 1 more in the 5th and another in the 9th. Their scoring was few and far between, but it was more than what Venezuela could put up. The home team only managed 3 hits for the entire game and not a single run. Dominican Republic 3-0 in the championship game to take home the 2023 Caribbean Series title. This was title number 22 for a Dominican team, the most of any country in Caribbean Series history. It was the 3rd title for a Dominican team in the last 4 years. For the Dominican ball club Tigres del Licey, it was their first Caribbean Series title since 2008, their record 11th championship overall. Venezuela's title drought continues. Their last one came in 2009. Cesar Valdez was the winning pitcher. He struck out 6 batters in 6 1/3 scoreless innings, only 3 hits and no walks, and he was named 2023 Caribbean Series MVP. So that's the end of the 2023 Caribbean Series. The next one is taking place in Miami in 2024. It was last held there in 1990 and 91, but hasn't been played there or anywhere in the U.S. ever since. They've said 7 teams will take part. That probably means all the teams from this year's edition, minus Cuba. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.